Henry, chance, goal! Salah, oh wow! Oh! Aguero! And Ronaldo! What a goal! Cristiano Ronaldo!
Hello and welcome back to Football Addiction. I'm Abdul. Martin's back this week. How are you, Martin?
I'm good. But we've also got a special guest.
You might have seen him on Buying Sport. You might have seen him on Optus Sport. Bit of tennis here and there. Claudio Fabiano, how are you?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me. Very good. Always keen to chat some football, and we've been treated to a fair bit this week, so keen to get into it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, firstly.
Anytime, guys.
Martin, you want to get us into the games?
All right. Well, we'll start off with the I'll say the ones that weren't the main highlights of the week. So we had Burnley and Norwich, 0-0 draw there. But we are surprised with Leeds versus Watford. That was a 1-0 win to Leeds. Centre-back Llorente getting the only goal of the game. And then we had Wolves beat Newcastle 2-1. And then we had Crystal Palace just equalising with or catching up to Leicester, who were up 2-0, but Leicester dropping 2 goals, that ending in a draw. And then Spurs holding on to a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. And then Brentford surprising the Premier League with a 2-1 victory over West Ham. But with the other games now, the first one of the weekend, Man U versus Everton. What were your thoughts on that, Abdul?
Yeah, so OLE let me down this week. He's always letting people down, but he let me down specifically our captain Ronaldo in FPL. So he's put him on the bench, and yeah, what do you expect? Man United's been in that type of form, and I feel like Ole is not the answer for me. But yeah, any words on that, Claudio?
Yeah, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. But I mean, it's tough. I can't hold it against Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because I think he was brought in as a caretaker manager. I thought he did a great job as a caretaker manager, but I think questions have to be asked as to why he got a long-term contract as quick as he did.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it is a tricky one because it's like, do you sack a manager that actually hasn't done too well? I don't think he's deserved to be sacked. I just think he didn't deserve to be hired in the first place. So now you're stuck in this weird predicament where it's like you're almost waiting for him to really give the club a reason to sack him. 1-1 at home to Everton. These aren't reasons enough. Even in the Champions League, it started bad. He got that win against Villarreal. He's not at a point, I think, where anyone could justify getting rid of him just yet. And he's a club legend too. He won it all there. Right? So it's a tough one to call. Watching that game against Everton, yeah, it was the same thing when you look at that game against Villa the week before. Was it the week before?
Right.
Yeah,
it was the week before. Yeah.
They've dominated possession, but they haven't had the clearest chances of the game. They don't look fluid going forward. You leave Ronaldo on the bench, which is a question mark in itself. I just think it's the same thing. I'm a Chelsea fan personally. It's the same thing I saw at Chelsea with Frank Lampard. It was great, lots of positivity, but you didn't realize how much Chelsea needed a world-class manager until the change happened. And I think if Man United swap Solskjaer out now, the new manager is going to come in and absolutely smash it with that team.
Well, yeah, that's right. To that Frank Lampard start of the season, that squad used the Champions League.
Exactly right. The squad was already there. I mean, Tommy Tuchel didn't have to do much.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and at the same time, I feel like with United though, I feel like he's out of his depth a little bit. Like I feel like there's players in that squad, personality-wise, that are much bigger than Ole as a manager. Like you almost feel like Ronaldo, if he comes onto the bench, he's going to sit there with Ole trying to manage his team. And as a manager of a club like Manchester United, look at the coaches like Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson will never allow that. Sir Alex Ferguson is subbing you off. You're sitting on the bench and you're waiting for the showers. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a bit too nice for me to coach a team like Man United, to be honest.
So then where would you say in particular that the club is going wrong so far, 7 games in the season?
Go on, Claudio.
No, I was just going to say they're still in the top 4 and they're okay in the Champions League. It's hard to say going wrong. I don't think it's necessarily that they're going wrong this season. I just think the club in general, since Sir Alex Ferguson has left, this is what I always say is wrong about. As much as Sir Alex Ferguson is a legend, I've always been an advocate for clubs need to move and adapt. And you can't base an entire club around a manager. And it's a controversial opinion of mine, but I think if you leave a manager in one spot for too long and the club becomes about them, then it's very hard to move on. You saw it with Arsenal, you see it with Man United. So I feel bad for any manager that's gone into United, because I couldn't begin to imagine how that club was set up. And it was honestly, in my opinion, it was set up for whoever took that job to fail afterwards. So I do feel bad for these guys, but I think they have gradually improved. Each time that they got a new manager in, it's now just set up for a world-class, someone that can control a busy change room, like you mentioned, Abdul, big characters.
Yeah. And I feel as if also with Man United, though, it's more than like, it's just individual performances carrying them. Like you look at Ronaldo's first game, I feel like his 2 goals, Bruno's world-class goal, got them across the line. Like they didn't look the best at the back. They brought Varane in, but still that defense is still looking shaky. Maguire's still making these mistakes. Varane's look sloppy here and there. Luke Shaw's inconsistencies with his injuries. And Wan-Bissaka he's not the best going forward. So in my opinion, I feel, I definitely agree with you. They do need a world-class coach. Zidane's free. Conte's free. I mean, so there's options out there, but like you said, you need a reason to sack him. You can't just get rid of him like that.
Yeah, one thing we got to talk about is Everton, though, because they look very good with Rafa Benitez. I questioned it when he took that club. I thought, no way, he's a Liverpool legend. He cannot take Everton. That's not going to work.
I was spewing after that one.
Are you a Liverpool fan?
I am a Liverpool fan, and I didn't know what to think. Like, the guy won us. He got us the Champions League in 2005, and it's hard to say. Like when that Merseyside derby happens this season, that's going to be hard to watch.
Yeah, it was already one thing going to Chelsea. I think that was questionable in itself, but let alone going to the only other club that you have
in Liverpool. It's
very questionable. But he's done very well, and he's still waiting on Dominic Calvert-Lewin to come back. Richarlison's been out, but how good are Gray, Townsend, and Doucouré playing together? I really like watching them play, and so I think credit has to be given to them that they were tough. Man United couldn't beat them.
They definitely they gave them a good run for their money, and they got a draw deservedly so. Anything else that you guys wanted to touch on from that game, or?
The Townsend celebration. We've got to mention that.
How good.
Yeah.
How good.
Shithousery at its finest. But anyways, well then we'll move on to the Arsenal versus Brighton. That was a 0-0 draw there. Brighton, they're doing well. They're challenging against the big ones, or Arsenal just being outside that top 6 squad now, but they're challenging there. So in terms of that game itself, they just really need to be clinical, didn't they?
I think from a Brighton point of view, we saw the Brighton of last season where they have so many shots on goal and they struggle to score. And in terms of but you got to credit Arsenal's defense. Arsenal really,
definitely.
Gabriel had a really good game once again. Ben White looked defensively solid, a bit shaky on the ball. Tomiyasu, despite having a shaky first half, came back in the second and put in a shift. And Tierney, despite again not looking good going forward, he did put a defensive shift in. And I feel like that's one thing I can say about Arsenal, and Aaron Ramsdale as well at the back, is that the defense and the goalkeeper look solid. That when I'm watching an Arsenal game now, I don't really feel anxious watching that defense like we had with Mustafi and David Luiz and those moments that they had over there. I don't feel like we're going to get that many moments, bad type of moments with the defense we have now. Otherwise, Brighton could say they deserved the win because Arsenal didn't really look good in attack and they weren't linking up as well. But when Lacazette did come on, I feel that he did bring another level of play. We felt like he should have started. He linked up the play really well, came in deep, pressured the defense really well, and sort of just completed that Arsenal front four. But other than that, it's just another Arsenal game where the defense looks good and the attack really doesn't fire. Any other thoughts?
I want to. Clearly, you're an Arsenal fan, right? You haven't hidden that, right? I want to ask you about Arsenal because I actually tipped them before the season to do quite well, and Graham Potter's done a great job with Brighton. They're a rock solid team. They have been for quite a few seasons. I've always been a big fan of Brighton, the way they set up with a back 3. They're tough to break down. I like them a lot. But as an Arsenal fan, I understand it's been tough years, but traveling to Brighton, 21 shots to 8, 59% possession for Brighton. I think when I look at this Arsenal side, I think for the first time in a few years, you can be quite confident with that back line. I question when you signed a goalkeeper, but to be fair, Ramsdale's been very good.
Yeah, he started
Ben
off
White,
brilliant.
Gabriel shows time and time again he's a top defender. Since he's come into the side, you guys haven't lost a game. Thomas Partey, we always knew he'd be a good player once he came into the midfield. So it's looking good. My question for you is going forward. You mentioned that the team got better when Lacazette came on. He came on for who?
Aubameyang.
Aubameyang. He's wearing the captain's armband. I'm yet to ever be convinced that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is the player to lead Arsenal's line, because you look at him against Spurs, he looked fantastic. The following week against Brighton, he can't
He was
get it going.
misfiring.
But we've seen this time and time again since Aubameyang came to Arsenal. Are you is he still the man to be up front for Arsenal? Is he the captain of your club, do you think? I think it's time that now you need to bring in a world-class striker.
For me, I agree with you. I think that him becoming captain is deeper than just, okay, he's a leader of the dressing room. I remember when Granit Xhaka got named captain and the whole incident at Crystal Palace happened, they needed to please the fans. They're flipping off the fans before you go off, taking off your shirt. Doesn't really end well with Arsenal fans specifically. So they had to pick someone that the fans really like. And I feel, the dressing room respects him. He's done his thing in Germany, done his thing on the international scene, and done his thing in England the first couple of seasons he was there. But when Mikel Arteta came to the club, what system worked for him when Aubameyang was in there? The 3-4-3, the counter-attacking system. Now that Mikel's got these players and wants to play a more possession style play, it's clear unless Aubameyang presses the living day out of the team he's playing against, it doesn't really get involved in the game unless you're playing him through and behind. When Lacazette, I think we do need a world-class striker. Even Lacazette starting ahead of Aubameyang, playing like Aubameyang on the left, switching it up a little bit. It's one or the other. You either say Mikel needs to change the system or Aubameyang needs to go. So you got to pick one or the other. But I think it's more so Aubameyang. As much as I love the guy, good service to the club, I think that Aubameyang moving forward needs to start, what's the right word? Transitioning out of the team, bring in a Martinelli, go by Calvert-Lewin. I was reading today that Ollie Watkins and Calvert-Lewin were being looked at by Arsenal. So, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned Granit Xhaka, Abdul, and so you'd say him. So the way things were when that incident happened to now, personally, I personally have an opinion where no matter how much you can cop from a club, but to still then go in and perform the way he is, it's still class. But now that he's injured, how long is his injury?
3 months.
3 months, yeah. So the hole that's going to be left in that midfield will be quite a bit.
Oh, agreed. And I don't think we'll survive. It's not that we won't survive. We don't have another player that can play Xhaka's role. It's as simple as that. Like I said, you're either going to have to change the system or train a player specifically to play that role. Because Lokonga tried to play it on the weekend and he kept getting caught out of possession. He kept getting overloaded in that position. Whereas Granit Xhaka, despite his disciplinary issues, does sort of deal with it better. So again, left-footed player as well on the left-footed side. So yeah, there's a few things there.
Okay. So moving on, interesting game from Chelsea. They played Southampton. My question is, if it wasn't a red card, would it have been 1-1?
The way Chelsea's playing at the moment, it could have been. It definitely was a red card, though. I think.
I do agree with you, but it was a big game changer for the Southampton skipper, copping the red. So it was definitely a game changer, and the mood just changed because I think not long after that, you guys just banged in 2 goals and then called it a day. But also, Timo Werner, he got back on the score sheet. Well, he had one that got cancelled out, but he's gaining form. And I think I mentioned this to Abdul last week. Since Tommy's come in as your manager, he's sort of the only player that's been on a very good progression, because the opinion of when Tom first came in, everyone thought of Timo Werner very lowly. He was at the bottom of the barrel, but now he's back in form and back with confidence. So what do you think of him going for the rest of the season in the EPL and the Champions League?
I think Romelu Lukaku coming in took a lot of pressure off the shoulders of Timo Werner because he's not if you ever watched him at Leipzig, he only sometimes played as the target man. Sometimes he played
Yes.
out wide. I even saw him play at 10 a few times. He had Big Poulsen, who he used to sometimes play off, and Yusuf Poulsen would play that target man and gave the chance for Timo Werner to run in behind. So I was waiting for the day that he'd play the two of them together. He's done that now. It didn't really work. I guess Chelsea thought that it would work against Man City. We play the counter attack. We break with those two. It was such a strange game to watch that one. I know we're going back 2 weeks, but the foundations were there. The Chelsea defended well, dug in, and actually got the ball to Timo and Lukaku a few times, but it was their touches let them down. It was just one of those days when nothing went that way. But I think those two together could form a really good strike partnership. Timo struggled to score goals, yes, but he was involved in more goal contributions than any other player last year.
He did very well.
He did, yeah, and he wins penalties, and he's had 16 disallowed goals since joining Chelsea.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I saw that on the Opta Sport coverage, and I was thinking, wow, like I was shocked by that.
I must say though, I think with Tuchel, we'll bring this up in a later video. I think with Tuchel though, that he's improved the defensive players so much. Rudiger, Christensen, Thiago Silva's come in and he's looked rejuvenated. But up front, I feel like the attackers just they haven't improved. Havertz has had moments. You've got Ziyech hasn't really played that much. You've got players like Mason Mount, who I feel's only, I don't want to say deteriorated, but he has not gone forward and improved a bit more since Tuchel's come in, whereas under Lampard, he flourished. Lukaku, I worry for a little bit because I don't want Lukaku, if he doesn't score goals 3 or 4, 5 games, he starts to become Man United Lukaku a little bit. That's my worry. And I love Lukaku as a player because he's a modern day big guy striker. Like you don't see many of them nowadays that do that well. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of him having more of an effect on your defenders than your attackers? Because you can defend all you want, but if you don't score goals, you're not going to win a game.
Yeah, I think definitely his job was to come in and shore up the defense because Chelsea under Lampard was scoring goals and conceding even more goals. I remember 3-3 draws with West Bromwich Albion. It was just not what you want from a championship winning team. And in fact, that defense was what got us through the Atletico Madrids, the Real Madrids, and these guys, and a 1-0 win in the Champions League final, switching to a back five. I think we are missing 2 players immensely, Mason Mount and Christian Pulisic, because both of them are attacking midfielders who break with a lot of pace. When we play Havertz and Ziyech, they're very similar. For me, when I see Chelsea line up, it's got to be either Havertz or Ziyech and either Pulisic or Mount. Because when we play Havertz, Ziyech together, they're great ball players. They don't have a lot of pace. They stop the build up. As we're building quickly, they'll stop, they'll cut in, they'll dribble, they'll come inside. It's great. But when you're trying to break quickly and with speed, all we're left with is Lukaku. Lukaku holds the ball up. I think Mason Mount, he came in the last 20 minutes on the weekend. It was good to see. And it happened to coincide with when Chelsea won the game against Southampton. Big positive note for him. Pulisic for me is still, when you talk Mount, when you talk Havertz, when you talk Ziyech, Pulisic for me has more potential than all of them, but he's just been so unlucky with injuries since joining Chelsea. But now that Mount's back in the side, I think a lot of that will change. I never know how this Chelsea side's going to line up. Besides the back five, I never know how this Chelsea side's going to line up, whether he's going to go Werner and Lukaku. Werner in off the bench. I like Werner off the bench because I think, the best Chelsea team starts maybe a Lukaku, Havertz, Mount either side. And then in case you haven't scored yet, the defense is tired, half an hour to go, you toss in Timo Werner and it's like throwing a whole nother bomb up front. You just never know what's going to happen. He's got that much pace. So yeah, I don't know. To answer your question, I think Mount has been unlucky this season with injury. He had a long season last year, played every game, plus he started every game for England in the Euros. So once he's back, hopefully Pulisic is back, I think Chelsea will get back on track. They had a bit of a week or 2 here that fell off a little bit, but I think they'll be back on track. Still top of the league.
Deservedly so, that one. Even though it was down to City, down to Juventus, and then getting over Southampton. So I think there was a lot of pressure revolving Chelsea and the signing of Lukaku. So obviously there's the pressure, and obviously winning the Champions League, there's pressure to win the league, and just continue on and just keep building on and not drop off after winning a title.